Hey guys, Mr. Strawberry back with another video for you. The intention of this video was I have 3 computers in my room and I was going to give you an overview of all of them in one video. But just before recording I got my code for the Crysis 3 Alpha, closed alpha trial, so I'm currently preloading that because it unlocks when at the time of recording in tomorrow, sorry. So I'm just preloading that, so I can't give you an overview of my gaming rig just yet. It's currently preloaded to 38%. If it finishes in time, I will stop the video, shut my rig down and move it over here where I can give you a nice overview of it. I'm going to try and be a good boy in this video and keep the camera on the tripod, because when I take it off the tripod it just makes it a little bit more harder. I'm going to start with my mobile computing, I should say, which is my laptop. I use this for basically for college. Literally I don't have any apps on here, but programs on my main computer that I can use to do my college work. I think I have Photoshop on there, and that's pretty much the only program I have on there that I can use as a for my computing, so for my college work, which I'm not even doing a unit at the moment that involves Photoshop. So yeah, I do everything like that on my laptop. It gives me more room on my SSDs to install games on my gaming rig, which is why I have it all on my laptop. I have a few nice stickers on there. One of them, that came with one of my OCZ solid state drives I've got on my main rig. Monster M I found, there's somewhere in my room. Again, the Monster's energy sticker there, and that EVGA sticker came with my 680. Yeah, the basic specs of it is, I can't remember, but it has an i3 in it. I can't remember what i3 it is, but yeah, have the i3 in there. It's got 4 gigs of RAM. It uses the HD 3000 graphics that's built into the i3. And it also has my old 256 gig solid state drive in there. It was a 500 gig hard drive, but it's no longer that anymore. Also has Windows 7 Professional on it, and yeah, like I said, it's nothing really special. It just has all my programs on there for college. Yeah, I can't actually remember what i3 it has in there, but it has a i3 in there. I'm thinking of actually upgrading that to an i5 or i7 just because I can. The RAM, which is 4 gig, I'm thinking about upgrading that to 8 gig because at the moment and next semester as well we'll be doing a lot of stuff with SQL Server, and that loves RAM. It quite happily sits there and uses 60% of that 4 gigs of RAM, so putting 8 gig in might not be such a bad thing, really. This is my second computer. This is sort of my test computer. It's all, the only thing in this I actually paid for was the case, which I bought brand new, which you saw me unbox. It's the Factual Divine Mini, and yeah, basically it's all recycled parts on the inside, and I just use it to play around with stuff. I mean, to give you an idea, the amount this currently has Windows Server 2012 or 2013, I can't remember what they call it, but it's one of them operating systems on it. It's also had the Linux on it, about 3 or 4 different types of Linux on there, as well as Windows 8. So this is really my test bench. My laptop has also had Windows 8 on there, but that soon went back to Windows 7. Yeah, it's got, like most of my computers, it's actually got no disk drive. I actually built this more for silence as well. So I do the unthinkable and stand up. Because I'm that lazy, I'm using an electric screwdriver. can't see, Mr. Camera, I'm not going to take you off the tripod, but I am going to move you around and zoom you in. Right, there we go. Okay, so you can't see the hard drive. The hard drive is actually my old 500 gig hard drive out of my laptop when I upgraded that to an SSD, and that's actually hid behind the motherboard tray. So that gave me, because at one point I was thinking about using this as a server and just filling these up with hard drives, like 2 terabyte hard drives for example, and just having this extreme amount of storage there. Currently that's not really viable, because I have a 2 terabyte external hard drive and that's only about half full. So when that starts getting about 3/4 full, I might start filling this up with hard drives. This is a Cooler Master GX 750 watt power supply. It was in my main system until I upgraded that to a Be Quiet one. But yeah, now it's in here. This is a HD, I can't remember what it is now. Oh yeah, it's a HD 5550. This one actually has 512 gigs of RAM. 512 gigs, fucking hell. 512 megabytes of video RAM. It also has a third party cooler on it, and I can't even remember its name. And there's no way to tell what its name is because that was the box for the cooler. So as you can tell, it's no name on there anywhere. So I won't be able to tell what its name is. I think it's Cool It, or Cool Ink, or something like that if I remember correctly. This cable here, because it plugs into a 3-pin header instead of the 2-pin that's included on the graphics card, that's the only way to run it. Behind it, the motherboard is just a Foxconn OEM one. The graphics card, before I put the third party cooler on it, motherboard, RAM and CPU were all pulled out of a OEM system. Like it was a pre-built, factory-built one that you'd get from like PC I or something like that, all in them parts. So this was just a really crappy Foxconn motherboard. The RAM is unbranded, doesn't even have a brand on the RAM. I have tried looking, but it's DDR2, so it's quite slow. It's an AMD Phenom processor. Pretty much the only time you're going to see AMD in use in my room. If I could afford it, I would actually change it over to Intel, but I can't really afford to start messing about with that sort of stuff. CPU cooler is the Thermalright Silver Arrow with bent heat pipes due to the side panel. That's lovely. Yeah, it only just fits in that. Doesn't actually fit in really. Because these, I've only just noticed that are actually bent. Wow, interesting. Yeah, so obviously it's only a dual core processor, doesn't need that much cooling. The fans actually cool it perfectly fine, which is why I've got no fans attached to the CPU cooler. That's entirely passive. But yeah, like I said, I use this literally for all my test bench type stuff, all my testing. I test operating systems on there. It's literally just a computer for me to play around with. So, like, I will probably at one point put Windows 7 on here and just sit there and just delete stuff in System 32 and see what happens. I think I pretty much know what will happen, but I've never actually done it before. But yeah, and it's also complete enough that if I decide I really need some money or something, I can just sell this because I have no need for it. But for the time being, I enjoy having it as my test rig. I'm going to be putting Linux back on it in the next couple of days, hopefully. Although now that I'm be on Crisis 3 in the next couple of days, I probably won't be. I probably won't do it. I probably won't get that much college work done either, which I really need to get done. So, but yeah, so this is what it is. If I do end up going the server route with this one, I will upgrade it to an i3 or a Pentium dual core, something like that, to something Intel. and again have it running passive. I'll probably choose an actual low profile heatsink so I'm not bending the heat pipes on a 60 quid cooler, because that one, and that one is bent. So whoops. But ultimately that is my test computer. I actually have, that's the point, it has a fan in the front and a fan in the rear, and they're connected to this fan controller here. So at the moment it's turned right down, but I could turn it up if I wanted to. I may do some, I may at one point turn the fans, turn the fans right up and stick some loud, powerful fans on this and benchmark it, see what I can overclock it. I think I have tried overclocking it before and I got about 300 megahertz out of the processor, so probably won't be able to do it that much because this is a really shit board. But it'd be worth a shot. Overclock the graphics card. But yeah, so that's my test, my spare computer really, more than anything. I would like to do the, if I zoom you back out so you can see me. Yeah, so I would like to show you around my main rig, but it's only preloaded Crisis 3 to 58%, so that's going to have to wait. So what I'll do is actually I'll probably just shut the video off and join you in a bit. Oh Christ. Yawn. Yeah, I'll join you in a bit with Crisis 3. Not with Crisis 3, with this rig. Once it's finished preloading, and yeah, so see you very soon. Okay, I'm back to do the to go over my main rig. I'm going to explain some choices as I go along because I've received criticism on certain parts I've picked. I'll go over it from the beginning, which is the fact it's a CM Storm Trooper. CM Storm's got to be one of my favourite brands when it comes to gaming orientated cases. Obviously I have the fractal design case what I've showed previously, which I do like. I do really like the fractal design cases. They, in their defined range anyway, they're nice to sort of, they're smart and uniformed, and I like to use them for either client builds or just, if I was to build myself a rig now that was silent orientated but needed some power, that's what I'd use. But I'm actually building myself this but I built myself a gaming rig and I felt I needed a gaming case to go with it, with room for expansion. Now what I mean by that is the CM Storm Trooper actually holds graphics cards up to ridiculous lengths. It can hold it has multiple water cooling options, multiple hard drive options, multiple solid state drive options. Most importantly with the motherboard, it can fit motherboards up to XL ATX, and that was quite important to, well, it was important to me in the sense that if I needed to upgrade to a bigger motherboard in the future for whatever reason, then, or let's say I upgrade to the next version of 2011, which for Ivy Bridge E, and they get a new socket, not a new socket, a new chipset, and with that chipset the minimum, your average motherboard is XL ATX, I now don't need to buy a case as well as a new motherboard. So that's the sort of reason I went with the case, and quite frankly it is quite possibly one of the greatest cases ever. Now, Give me a moment, just get into it here. I did buy the windowed side panel for it, so you can actually see inside it. I felt personally that that was quite important. So I like having a windowed side panel in a case like this. Now, as opposed to moving it off the tripod, I'm going to first unplug it. Because it was plugged in. I'm going to move it closer like that. Okay, so if I now can get in. Now, one thing I'm going to explain is everything in here is running out of stock clocks. Obviously the 680 comes factory overclocked, but I haven't overclocked it any more than that factory overclock. CPU, the BIOS is literally completely out of stock, except the fact that I've turned the motherboard light LEDs off. It gives you the option to do that, and they're quite bright. And my SATA 6, my SATA 3 6 gigabit a second ports are actually set to RAID because I'm running 2 solid state drives in RAID. Now, okay, the reason why I am running at stock is basically I don't really have the time to sit there and overclock and test bench and to stabilise it and make sure it works perfectly fine before I do any of that sort of stuff. And it's like, I tried to explain this to someone when I do quite a lot of stuff actually in 3ds Max. I mean, most of it's just messing about and won't see the light of day because I just like practicing in it, practicing my skills. But I still sort of have a couple of things in 3ds Max that I do that takes 3 or 4 days of my CPU being at 100% to for it to render the complete thing out. And when it's at 100% load, obviously with an overclock, I'm not going to stress test my CPU to that amount. I'm going to test it for what, 8 hours, and you know, if I'm 3 days into a 4-day render and it crashes and I have to start again, I'm not going to be happy. So keeping it at stock is the perfect solution for me. It also means that I've got this massive Be Quiet Dark Watt Pro on there. I actually run the fans at 10% speed because at 10% speed it keeps it a bit warmer than it would if they were at 100%, but it means I'm effectively, as far as noise is concerned, about the same sort of noise level as if I was passively cooling the CPU. So, and obviously I've actually plugged it into the motherboard, so if the CPU does heat up at any time during these big renders or when playing games, the fans will spin up and keep it cool. I went with this MSI board because it was the cheapest that supported, that had the 8 DIMM slots, so 4 on each side. The reason I've done that is that even though I've got 16 gigs of RAM in there now, I want to know that if I need more RAM, I can upgrade it easily and cheaply without having to buy a new motherboard. Like in this state, I could get another set of this RAM and I could have 32 gig in and it won't cost me a thing. Or I can just replace this kit to a 32 gig kit with 4 sticks, and it gives me a lot more upgradability as well with the CPU. I'm running an i7-3820. Now the reason for that is because I needed a quad core. A hex core was sort of a bit overkill for me because at the time I wasn't actually doing a lot of 3ds Max rendering, and a quad core seemed perfectly fine. So I got a quad core. And then a lot of people went, well, why don't you just go with Sandy Bridge or Ivy Bridge? And I thought, well, if I was to get, let's say, at the time, because Ivy Bridge wasn't actually out, it was about 2 or 3 weeks before Ivy Bridge was released, I got the 3820. They sat there and they said, well, why didn't you just get a 2700K? If I'd got 2700K, and in the situation where I am now, I could actually really do with the hex core, I just can't afford it. But if I was in that situation now with a 2700K, not only would I have to take in the cost of the hex core CPU in, I'll have to take in the cost of a new motherboard and more RAM, because I'll be going from dual channel to quad channel. So there's all that sort of extra cost that would have been involved, and whereas getting this 3820 RAM and motherboard, which was all pretty much the same price as just getting it all like this through on Z68. Like I said, I've saved myself money in the long run. I've still got the same performance that I would have got with a 2700K, but with the added bonus of I can upgrade to hex cores, octo cores, 10 cores, 12 cores, whatever comes out on with Ivy Bridge E in the future in Q3 next year, which I'm gonna try and hold out till then before I upgrade my CPU, and hopefully I will get an octo core just because I can. Graphics card wise, I do have the EVGA 4GB GTX 680, the 4GB edition. It's the For the Win version, so it's just below no classified card. The reason I chose this one was because I wanted 4 gigs, so in the future if I got 3 screens or a higher resolution screen, I had the VRAM there. Loads of people said, why don't you just save yourself 100 or 150 quid, whatever it was, and get the 4GB 670, and I said, well, the idea is I want the max performance now, but I can possibly get. By the time I've I understand the sort of point in getting the 4GB 670 when it looked worse because the power connectors were down there because it was short of PCB, and it lost about 5% performance, and I thought, well, in the day when the next trend, when the 700 series comes out, probably get a couple more of these at really cheap cost, stick it in 3-way SLI, and job's done. Now, so that's why I went with that one. It gives me the most performance as a single card now, and in the long run I can get more of them, which is, I suppose, is the same with the 670s as well. But I just it's a part of me that's thought if I got a 670, I probably would have traded up to a 700 series card on release, which I would have lost money doing. Whereas doing it this way, I've got the fastest NVIDIA single GPU card currently now, and I can upgrade them to multiple ones, and I won't feel quite as bad. It's hard to explain. The nerd in me will not think, oh god, I haven't got the fastest card when I've got the 680. That's what I'm hoping anyway. Moving down, I have the 1000 watt Be Quiet Dark Power Pro power supply. Now, a lot of people also ask, why did I go with a 1000 watt one when quite clearly I don't need it. The reason I went with this 1000 watt power supply is simply because it gives me room to upgrade. If I'd got a 750 or an 850 watt version of this power supply, then when I wanted to upgrade graphics cards to possibly 3-way SLI, I would have had to sit there and go, well, not only do I have to pay for these 2 extra graphics cards, I also have to pay for a new power supply. And okay, yes, I can sell the old one on, but it will still be at a loss. I'll lose money overall. So getting this now gives me room in the future without having to worry about money. It's the same with upgrading my CPU. If I just do a full upgrade, do a couple more graphics cards, hex core processor, obviously I'm going to need more power. And the 1000 watt, I did want the 1200 watt, but that was out of stock at the time, so I got this one instead. But what can you do? So I did go with the Dark Watt Pro in the end. Solid state drive wise, I actually have 2 OCZ Solid 3. They're each solid state drives. They're each 120 gigabyte, and they're running in RAID 0. A lot of people have asked, why did I go with OCZ? Well, I do know that they have a very questionable history, and they're still quite questionable, but pretty much the amount I paid for both of these is pretty much the amount you normally pay for just a single 120 gig drive. I basically got one for free, so I figured I might as well just go for it, get the 2 and hope for the best. I only touched over the RAM. I just remembered I never really went into detail on that one. That's Mishkin. it's 16 gigs of it, and I can't remember what speed. I think it's 1600 megahertz if I remember correctly. But like I said, I haven't actually set it up in the BIOS because I just want the computer to load and be stable long term, which it is. So is that whatever it's? I think it is rated for 1600 megahertz, and it probably is one in that as well. I don't have any storage hard drives in there. That's mainly because I have a 2 terabyte USB 3 external hard drive, so I don't need to have a internal hard drive inside here. What else is there? Oh. I will show you around back in a minute, but really can't think of anything else. On this side I haven't gone over. Oh yeah, you probably can't see it on the camera, but just down here, literally down here, you might just be able to see bits of it. No, you probably can't. Is a BitPhoenix LED strip. It's 1500. Got no in the end. No, 1500. 15 centimeters long, if I remember correctly. It's white LED, and it's actually connected up to the 2-pin for the LED on-off button, but it's included in the Trooper. I've unplugged the 2 red LED ones because they don't really go with my overall sort of colour theme. Like my colour theme is quite sort of black and blue, sort of. It's mainly black with a bit of blue and a bit of silver. So they never really went. The red LEDs never really went with my colour scheme. So I've left the fans plugged in but unplugged the LEDs. And yeah, I've got this single white one down here. I do want to get another one to put up there, up along the top, but I haven't really got around to doing that yet. Yeah, it's not really the highest of my priorities. So so I just took a drink. Yeah, so that's the LED strip up there. It's not the highest of my priorities. Just like I want to switch that fan out for a 140mm Be Quiet fan, and the 2 front ones with 120 Be Quiet fans. But like I said, they're not top of my priority, so not going to be done just yet, as I have other things I need to buy to do with college and stuff like that. What's that? I think I will turn the computer around. Are you visiting shot? Let me take a look. Yep, just about. Right. Whoops. Okay, take this side panel off. Okay, so just got a face full of me in the camera. Yeah, for this cable management, I decided to take a different approach to it. Obviously, I've still got the 8-pin going up like that. Still got the PCI cables going there into the BitPhoenix sleeved extensions, which I never actually mentioned, and then going through there to the graphics card. A lot of times people mount the 24-pin, so it's this side of the motherboard tray, so it goes out in like that. I decided to give it a go doing it that way, just because then the bulkiest of the cable is inside the deepest part of the case. I think it's worked out quite well. Obviously it could probably be tidier, but it's quite tidy. I haven't actually secured the SATA cables for my SSDs yet. That's just because I'm still contemplating changing this one to getting a bit Phoenix cable for this set one, so that matches this a bit. Maybe possibly getting blue, but I don't know. But yeah, I never really put that much effort into this cable management. I just made sure everything was sort of running. Everything was plugged in and it was reasonably tidy behind here. I don't think you can get much better. I haven't plugged in the front SATA port just because I don't own anything that's eSATA, so what's the point having the cable trailing around down here when I don't need it? I think there's actually a part of the front panel that's not plugged in as well, just because I don't use it. But obviously you've got that's for the roof and the rear fan, cabled up through there. Front fans are cabled through that. Obviously my CPU fans are plugged into the motherboard, so the cables don't come around this side. They're perfectly hidden in this bulk of the CPU core itself. Yeah, that's my rear cable management done. If you want to comment on that and tell me what you think, then you're free to do so. If you think there's anything you would do different, then tell me. Because I do realise it doesn't look extremely tidy, but at least it's not extremely messy at the same time, if you know what I mean. It's a bit sort of... I've done the best I can with the... I think if I'd got something like a Corsair power supply or something like that, the cable management wouldn't actually be as tidy, because with them, although they're modular power supplies, and they don't have the same level of modularity as the Be Quiet fan power supplies do. So obviously I've actually got no SATA power actually connected, because my solid state drives one off of a bit Phoenix sleeved extension, which actually plugs in by Molex to the power supply. So although you can see that SATA there, that's part of the extensions. So yeah, so I have two Molex power. I used the one that had a floppy disk connector on it, just in case I decided to get a sound card, which I'm still contemplating because I have quite nice speakers. So I was thinking, if I get a sound card, then obviously sometimes I actually get power from floppy disk connectors. So I figured if I keep that available, then I've got nothing to worry about. I don't have to do any major remodelling of my case when I plug in, because I have to plug in an extra cable to the actual power supply itself or something like that. So that's sort of thinking ahead. I've also got room, obviously, if I was to get another 680, I'd run the graphics card up the same way like this, but then instead of going it round that way, I'd bring it round along there and go through like that. If I was actually going to run a third one, I don't know what I'd do. I haven't really thought about that. But yeah, that's ultimately the cable management of my computer. I turn it back round, so it's the nice side. Yeah, so tell me what you think. Is there anything you would do different to this? I might actually end up uploading this as a second part, because it's actually gone quite long, 21 minutes. I would go over my sort of main desk setup, like my monitor for the time being, and stuff like that, but that's currently in a bit of an iffy stage at the moment. My desk is quite messy, and yeah, ultimately it's not the greatest of things. But yeah, so that's my main rig. I hope you enjoyed either this video or these last two videos, depending if I do them in two parts or not. And come back soon for some more videos, and comment, rate, subscribe. Just notice I've got a lot of dust on the front there. because it has been a few weeks since I actually, quite a while actually, since I de-dusted my case. I do have an air compressor that I use, and I just blow all the dust out, but I haven't done that for a couple of months actually since I last done that. So yeah, that's my computer in all its gloryness. Tell me what you think. Tell me if there's anything you would have done differently. Is there a part that you would perhaps have not got? What would you have got in favour of? I will explain actually very quickly. The reason I chose an NVIDIA graphics card is because in 3ds Max I do use PCs I. Obviously, and I do play a couple of PCs enabled games. So NVIDIA seemed like the best way to go. If I didn't need PCs, I probably actually would have gone with a 7970. Obviously they're a bit cheaper. I only use a gig of RAM, but yeah, I probably would have, or I may have tried to have gone with a 6 gig 7970, something like that, I don't know, but ultimately the 680 seemed like the best choice, the most powerful and with the most VRAM. But yeah, I'm going to keep going around in circles if I carry on now. So after nearly 24 minutes for this part, I hope you enjoyed this video of my computers. Like I said, comment, rate, subscribe. Open to hear your thoughts. I'm actually running Windows 7 on here as well. So I'm currently planning to stay completely away from Windows 8. And will do for the long run. I'm going to say I can't do benchmarks. I know some people have asked me to do benchmarks on this computer, but I can't, I'm afraid. I really don't have the time. I've actually got about 4 college assignments that I have to do at the moment because they're all due in next week. So I never really had the time to do this video, let alone actually run benchmarks. If later on in the year, once I've got if I get a couple more if I get at least another 680 and maybe upgrade my CPU, then I may do benchmarks. But for the time being, there's no real point doing that anyway because it's at stock. So there's not really any point. So yeah. Anyway, comment, rate, subscribe, all that stuff. Like I've said now for about 3 or 4 times, and yeah, stay tuned for another video. I've got to do some Crisis Warhead definitely. I've got into the Crisis 3 Alpha, so I might do a bit of filming of that, even though I don't think I'm technically allowed, but I don't care. Yeah, so I've got into that, so I may do some of that. If not, just take screenshots, because YouTube get really funny with EA videos, like stuff like Crisis 2 and Crisis 1. They got really funny on with the videos since I switched to monetizing my videos. So yeah, I'm gonna love you and leave you and probably do some college work now. So hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye.